Hi, my name is Ngai, and I am a junior studying journalism and political economy at USC. I'm also an international student, and I guess there's some stereotype about international students being rich because of how much tuition costs and just how much it costs to study overseas in general, but that's not always true. There are scholarships, financial aid, and other loan options out there. I myself, personally, am at USC today because of a full tuition scholarship they gave me, as well as another need-based scholarship that provides for living allowance money, such as for rent and for food, from an organization outside of USC. I had competitive grades, but I didn't do that many extracurriculars, and I had a grand total of 0 awards throughout my whole high school and middle school career. But I was really determined. I spent a lot of time just researching scholarships and digging for them. And today I'm going to share with you 5 of my top tips that I've distilled throughout my own process. My first tip is to understand what you are getting into. This comprises of a few parts. First is to manage your expectations. There are scholarships that are specifically just for international students, while other scholarships throw you into the same applicant pool as US citizens. Both are going to be really competitive, so don't be overly idealistic about your chances. But at the same time, don't just give up and not shoot all your shots either. The second part of this is to understand the different types of scholarships. For example, is it merit-based, which looks at your grades, your extracurriculars, leadership, how you look on paper? Or is it needs-based, which looks at your financial need on top of all of that? It's also good to keep in mind, where is my scholarship coming from? Is it coming from a school, an alumni association not attached to the school? Is it government-based? And also, you should pay attention to the funding method. Is it a one-off sum or is it continuous for all 4 years? I'm going to talk more about this later. Another part of understanding what you're getting into is to grasp the time commitment applying to scholarship takes. Scholarship deadlines are kind of like uni deadlines. I suggest you to pop them all into your own uni calendar or Excel spreadsheet, however you keep track of your uni deadlines. Use the same system for that. And also keep into mind that for some scholarships, they are the same app as your college application, for example. But for other ones, you might need to write essay prompts. And especially for international students, it's good to know ahead of time whether some scholarships may require IELTS or TOEFL score for English proficiency, and also whether they need any financial documents for need-based scholarships. For example, would they require you to convert the details in your financial documents into US dollars? So all of this is good to know and research ahead of time so that you can prepare your parents, for example, to get those financial documents in order. I'd also give myself a false deadline a few days in advance of the true deadline so that I don't miss the real date and give myself some buffering time before the app is really due. My second tip is to figure out your priorities. So there are so many scholarships out there, you could literally get lost for hours just scrolling through Google and also other scholarship search engines that you might stumble across from Google, and you often have little guidance on what to focus on. So here are some few questions to get you started on thinking about your own goals and what you're looking for. For example, are there any specific schools you want to go to? If there are, then you can start just Googling scholarships at Cornell University, for example. And if there aren't any specific schools you want to go to, are there any specific countries or areas and regions you want to study in? Or do you just want the most financially feasible option as long as it's not in your own country, like anywhere overseas? My third tip is to be creative with your searches. Think like a detective. Knowing your priorities helps you narrow down your searches. You should be smart with your searching after combing through the general, for example, USC scholarship or scholarship for Hong Kong students on Google. Here are 5 examples of creative searches I use to get you started. One is to search within a admissions or scholarship site of a certain school. For example, I would search site : admissions.usc.edu, and then I'll search Hong Kong scholarship. This kind of search function would help you search for are there any country or region-based scholarship within like a school-based scholarship sites. The second type is I would type American Chamber of Commerce scholarship plus wherever you're from. Why this is because usually American consulates and American business organizations and such, they will facilitate some cultural exchange programs, initiatives, and then one of them sometimes is that they'll give one-off sums to students who are already admitted to schools in the US, for example. And that will be a smaller sum scholarship usually, but it's good to look for those as well. Another search I use is to search, for example, Hong Kong alumni plus scholarship. This gives me an idea of what are the alumni associations from where I'm from and if they give any scholarships. Another way I would look for scholarships is to go on the subreddit International to USA. And I will also sometimes browse through search engine websites such as internationalstudent.com, but I wouldn't spend too much time on these two. These two are more broad searches to give you an idea of what's out there, or if you have a more niche scholarship you're thinking of, to see if there's any info on the subreddit forum, for example, from people who applied before. I will also reach out and try to find any local NGOs that help with higher education. Maybe they have some resources, a scholarship list they already have. I'd also attend any talks if your high school hosts any, and talk to alumnus at your high school who already go to certain universities or if they had certain scholarships. And as you go more niche in your searches, you should beware of scams too. Some red flags include asking for money up front in the form of loan or application fees, and also if they guarantee that you get a certain scholarship if you apply, because nothing is going to be guaranteed in the whole scholarship searching and applying process. My fourth tip is to craft a personal narrative. You should know what your scholarship organization, whether it be school-based or outside org, know what they're looking for. So why should they invest in you, right? You are human capital. It's kind of like finding a hook. Before you go to an interview, you should research the organization or the school thoroughly. Interviews are really the time to shine when everyone is equally impressive on paper. There are different strategies for different types of scholarships that you're interviewing for. For example, in merit-based scholarship interviews, you should definitely emphasize your achievements, talk about why you will excel in X major or X university in X place. If you're shy to brag about yourself, focus on how much you want the scholarship and how much more that outweighs your embarrassment about yourself. Don't be afraid to brag. For need-based scholarships, you should emphasize your financial need and how you have overcome your financial troubles to succeed. In one of the need-based scholarship interviews that I ended up getting, actually, I talked about how I chose the SAT rather than ACT because there's free prep on SAT through Khan Academy online. So I did all the 8 practice tests that Khan Academy offered. And after that, I went to the local public library to borrow a SAT prep book to prepare even more. But when I opened the prep book, they had the exact same 8 practice tests as the ones online. So stories like this really shows that you are a scrappy go-getter that can overcome any financial challenges. And that's why you deserve the scholarship. For alumni organizations, you should definitely talk about how you're going to commit to their school, how you're so passionate about their school. And for government-based scholarships, you should focus on how you can contribute to the community, how you can contribute to your country where you're from after you graduate, because they're really looking for human capital. For example, I noticed that in past cohorts, my government-funded scholarship did not have anyone who went on to do journalism, which is my major, so I really leaned on to that part. My last tip is to always read the fine prints. This includes a lot of things. For example, make sure your country is eligible for some scholarships. Figure out your funding method. Does it directly go towards your school accounts? For example, does it count as like credit to your tuition or to your room and board? Or does it go directly to your bank account, for example, in the form of a check? This affects your financing options later on and your financial plans, so definitely figure it out early on. Make sure you've been honest and fill out the right things for your financial details for need-based scholarships. read the terms and conditions carefully after you get an offer. For example, some government-based scholarships might require you to work in the country you're from for X number of years after you graduate. This is because they want to use the scholarships as a way to retain and nurture human capital. For more technical things, definitely call the financial aid office or email them, and don't just rely on subreddits or other online forums or even other students. You want to have the correct info. To conclude, scholarships want you to apply. So the more you apply to, the better the chance you have. And even if you don't get the scholarship, the interviews are really a great experience. And there are also different ways of financing your education overseas if that's what you really want in the end. So yeah, good luck and shoot all your shots.